Imagine. You are a Portuguese general. The most powerful military force in the world is behind you. Your country has conquered nations, toppled kingdoms, enslaved millions. No one has ever stopped you. No one has ever even tried. And today, you are sitting across a table from an African queen. You expect submission. You expect fear. You expect her to bow. But she does not bow. She does not flinch. She does not even blink. She looks you directly in the eye. And in that moment, you realize something that will haunt you for the rest of your life. You are not the most powerful person in this room. She is. This is the story of Queen Nzinga of Angola, the African queen who fought the most powerful empire on earth for 40 years, and never, not once, surrendered. Before we tell her story, we need to understand the world she was born into. The year is 1583. Portugal is at the height of its power. Portuguese ships dominate the Atlantic Ocean. Portuguese soldiers have conquered territories across Africa, Asia, and South America, and in West Central Africa. In what is today the modern nation of Angola, Portugal has set its eyes on a new prize. The Mbundu people, a powerful and proud African nation, ruled by a kingdom called Ndongo. Portugal wanted one thing from Ndongo: slaves. The transatlantic slave trade was at its peak, and the Portuguese needed a constant supply of enslaved Africans to work the plantations of Brazil. Ndongo stood directly in their way, and into this world. On a stormy night in 1583, a child was born. Her name was Nzinga, and from the very beginning, she was different. Nzinga grew up watching her father, King Kiluanji of Ndongo, navigate the impossible pressure of Portuguese aggression. From childhood she sat beside him in meetings. She listened. She watched. She learned. While other children played, Nzinga was studying diplomacy. While other children rested, Nzinga was training in combat. Her father recognized something in her that he saw in no one else. A mind so sharp, a spirit so unbreakable, that he began preparing her, not as a princess, but as a ruler. When Nzinga's father died, her brother Ngolambande took the throne, and everything changed. Ngolambande was weak where his father had been strong, fearful where his father had been bold. And as Portuguese pressure intensified, as their soldiers pushed deeper into Ndongo territory, as their slave raiders captured thousands of Mbundu people, Ngolambande did something desperate. He sent Nzinga. In 1622, Nzinga traveled to the Portuguese colonial capital of Luanda to negotiate with the Portuguese governor, João Correa de Sousa. She was 39 years old, and she was about to do something that no one had ever seen before. When Nzinga arrived at the meeting, the Portuguese had set up the room deliberately. The governor sat in a grand chair, a throne, and for Nzinga, there was no chair, just a floor mat. A deliberate insult. A power move designed to make her kneel, to make her bow, to remind her that she was beneath them. Nzinga looked at the floor mat. She looked at the governor sitting in his grand chair, and then she did something that nobody in that room expected. She turned to one of her servants, and she told him to get on his hands and knees, right there, in front of the Portuguese governor. And then Nzinga sat on her servant's back, as if he were her throne, eye level with the governor, equal, refusing to be beneath anyone. The room went completely silent. The Portuguese governor stared at her, and Nzinga stared back, without blinking, without flinching, without bowing. In that single moment, she had completely rewritten the power dynamic in that room, and the negotiation had not even started yet. What happened next shocked everyone. Nzinga negotiated brilliantly. She secured a peace treaty with the Portuguese. She won the release of Mbundu prisoners. She established Ndongo as a sovereign nation that the Portuguese were required to respect. She even converted to Christianity, taking the baptismal name Ana de Sousa, not out of genuine faith, but as a calculated diplomatic move to gain the respect and trust of the Portuguese. She played their own game, better than they did. But peace never lasts when there is greed involved. The Portuguese broke the treaty almost immediately. Their slave raids continued. Their soldiers pushed deeper into Ndongo. And when Nzinga's brother Ngola Mbande died, under mysterious circumstances that many historians believe were not accidental, Nzinga took the throne. She was done negotiating. She was done playing diplomat. Now, she would fight. What followed was one of the most extraordinary military campaigns in African history. Nzinga proved to be not just a brilliant diplomat, but a military genius. She forged powerful alliances with neighboring kingdoms. She recruited former slaves and Portuguese deserters into her army. She trained her soldiers in guerrilla warfare, tactics so effective that the Portuguese military commanders, who had conquered nations across the world, could not figure out how to counter them. She moved her base of operations to the neighboring kingdom of Matamba, where she conquered the throne, and used it as her base of resistance. From Matamba, Nzinga launched devastating raids against Portuguese positions. She disrupted their slave trade routes. She freed enslaved Mbundu people wherever she could find them. She turned her kingdom into a sanctuary, a safe haven, for escaped slaves and anyone who had suffered under Portuguese colonialism. For decades, the most powerful military force in the world could not defeat her. The Portuguese tried everything. They sent their best generals against her. She outmaneuvered them every time. They tried to install a puppet king in Ndongo to undermine her. She exposed and destroyed his legitimacy. They tried to cut off her alliances. She built new ones. They tried to capture her. They never got close. For 40 years, Queen Nzinga fought the Portuguese Empire. For 40 years, she refused to surrender. For 40 years, she kept her people free. She was 70 years old, and still fighting. Still commanding her armies, still outmaneuvering the Portuguese, still refusing to bow. When Nzinga finally negotiated a peace settlement in 1657, it was not because she had been defeated, it was because she chose peace. Queen Nzinga died in 1663. She was 80 years old. She had spent over 4 decades fighting the most powerful empire on earth, and she had never surrendered. Not once. When she died, the Portuguese breathed a sigh of relief, because for 40 years, one African woman had been their worst nightmare. Today Queen Nzinga is remembered as one of the greatest leaders in African history. A statue of her stands in Luanda, the capital of modern Angola, the same city where she once sat on her servant's back and stared a Portuguese governor in the eye. She is studied in military academies, celebrated by historians, and remembered by the Angolan people as the mother of their nation. They tried to conquer her. They tried to break her. They tried to erase her. But you cannot erase a woman like Nzinga, because women like Nzinga do not disappear. They become legends. This is Africa, Unearthed. Next time, we uncover the story of an African empire, so wealthy, so powerful, so advanced, that it traded with ancient Rome, centuries before anyone tried to tell you Africa had no history. Subscribe to Africa Unearthed, so you do not miss that story. The secrets of Africa are just getting started.